So my gesso's dry, paper's done. So the whole point here is just to start adding color. I have my palette here. You can see just very minimal colors here. And I've got some pretty dry stuff and some newer stuff. But that's okay. At this point, the whole point here is just to add color to your paper. You want to use a big paintbrush, a nice wide one. You want to cover as much space as possible. So I'm going to dip my paintbrush in the water, grab some paint, and it's super dry, but that's okay. So I'm just going to add. I'm going to go in here, add some yellow to that, and that's okay. I like it. It adds texture. So I'm going to take some water and pick that up. Take some of my blue here. Now if you notice, I'm not cleaning my paintbrush. I'm just going to go in. Now you don't want to over mix, because then you end up with mush. So I'm going to go back in here. This paint, the one I'm using, is super dry. That's okay though. Add some stuff in there. So I'm just random, right? There's no rhyme or reason here. I'm just going in here, going here. Now that's super. See, this blue is super bright. But I'm just going to go in here. That's curling over. I'm going to add some white in here. And the whole point is just to add color everywhere. I probably shouldn't have used this paint because it's dry, super dry, but I hate wasting. For those of you who've taken my classes and know me, you know that I hate wasting. So again, the idea is just take some paint, no rhyme or reason. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you don't like what you do, then you can always cover up with gesso. It really is that simple. So this is one way of doing it, and you can see the strokes. You can see those lines. Let's see. I'm noticing down here I don't have enough blue, so I'm going to wet my paintbrush a little bit, pick up some blue, and go in here. Blue and yellow make green. So let's get some green in there. I'm going to pick up some white. So you notice it's looking darker up here than it is down here. So I'm going to introduce a new color, magenta. So I've got ultramarine blue. I've got a ultramarine blue. I've got cad red. I've got a yellow, magenta, and white. Oh, that's intense, right? So the whole point with this is not to cover what's underneath it. The color I just picked up, excuse me, this magenta is an artist grade magenta, and it's a golden, and you can see how intense that is. It's really picked up, it's covered up the colors from underneath, and it's super intense. And I'm just going to go in and lighten it up. So again, you notice I'm not covering up what's underneath it completely. All I'm doing is just adding color in random spots. So again, this doesn't have to be a long process either. I'm going to pick up some more magenta, mix it with white, get it in here. Okay, I'll do that for now, leave that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change brushes. I want a smaller brush because I don't want my strokes to be that wide. I want to be able to see more of what's underneath, and if I pick up a big brush, then I cover what's underneath. So I'm picking up a smaller brush, and I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to purposely mix some color on my palette. I've got some blue and some yellow, make green. Add some white to that. And I'm going to go in here and do this. Lines. This is what gives your piece interest. Some people, if you just did the same lines over and over again, the same direction, it can get pretty boring. But I like this because you can go in here And just the idea is to make lines, have fun. Let's make some circles. Let's make some triangles. Make believe you're going to write. Right? So I've got this. I've got a little bit of... I'm going to write something here. That's looking interesting. Make some lines. See how that looks. So the whole point here is just to add color. Now you notice in this area here it's too much pink, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take some ultramarine blue, mix it with a little bit of white, and go in there and change some of that. Now if you think too much about it, you get stuck. This is why I always say you move fast. I like to say, you know, one, two strokes, you're done. What does that mean? That means you pick up some paint, you do 1, 2, done. Pick up some more paint, 1, 2, done. Now it's getting a little bit more interesting. Again, there's no, just add color, add color. I don't want to cover what's underneath. I'm going to make my lines. Realistically, you can spend a good hour doing this. And you just start playing, go this way and this way. So you see there's no rhyme or reason. This up here is looking too mono something. Add some color in there. Diagonal. So how do you know when enough is enough? Well, there's a little trick I use. Depending on how not complicated, depending on how colorful you want this piece to be, what I do is I take a piece of paper and I rip it. And I rip it so I have a little square window. And I put my window up to the paper. So in that window, if all I can see is one color, I know I don't have enough variation. So I'll go in and add some more. Let's see, I'm going to mix some, I'm going to get some purple. Red and back to magenta. The other thing that is important to add is value. Right now, a lot of these pieces, a lot of these little lines are looking like they've got the same value, and I want to get some interest in there. So what do? You add a lighter or a darker color. So I think I've got some pretty dark pieces in here. So I'm going to start by lightening up add some lights in there. Now I could mix. You can experiment, but life is too short to mix. So I buy the color I need and I use that. But know that that is not mandatory. You can mix and play. So I'm going to go in here. What I don't have with me are stencils. That's another thing that works beautifully to add textures to this piece. Now I noticed I've got a lot of purple in here and a lot of this magenta not in here, so I'm just go back and add some of that magenta to make it balanced. Fast. There's no reason why you can't go fast. So remember I said earlier, a smaller brush If my window that I'm seeing through is smaller, then I want to use a smaller brush because I want whatever's in that window to be different. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Okay, it's got a lot of white. Now it's a lot of white in there. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to use some more ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue. The difference though, this paint is fresher, and so it's not as thick as my other paint. There, much better. So actually, I think I'm going to go to an even smaller brush, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make some, I'm going to wet my brush to keep the paint moist. I'm going to make some lines. Who doesn't love a good script, right? Mix some paint in here. Oh, I like that. I just mixed ultramarine blue with some magenta. Oh, there's no words. Beauty with paint. You cannot go wrong. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, okay, it's getting dark. So some of these little areas in here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to lighten up. So it's a play on light and dark, light and dark. So maybe I'll go in here and I'll go in here. My paintbrush is dry. You can feel it scratching. Maybe I'll do circles. I'm liking this yellow. So I'm going to remember that little window I keep on talking about. I'll show you what I mean. It's easy to forget about adding paint everywhere. You tend to stick to one side, but there we go. There is no rhyme or reason to this. Just go at it. Just paint away. Okay. It's looking better. This area down here is kind of bland. And so let me show you what I mean by that. Let me grab a piece of paper. Okay, I've got a piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rip up, I'm going to fold this in half. I'm using a good piece, that hurts. I'm just going to rip up a little window. So this is my window. So if I take this window and I set it in on top of this canvas, if you take a look up here, there's not much going in. There's not much happening there. It's almost kind of boring. Down here, look at that. Boring. So what do? You make it happy. You add some color in there. So I'm going to go in here and just add some of this. So how little or how much you want your paper to be different dictates on you. I mean, you decide. This is the beauty. This is the beauty of art. Okay, I think I like it. It's actually, it's kind of dark, so let's go in here. Lighten it up. Put some of that. Put some of that. It looks like a hot mess, but this is all part of the process. Again, the students, if you take a class from me, you know that this is part of the process. You typically need a good, I don't know, some of my work has 10, 15, 20 layers. And that's what makes it exciting. That's what gives your piece depth. So go in here. Just a little bit more. I like it better. If you see in here, I don't know if you can see it. Might be hard to tell, but this window, I take my little window and I hold it up against my paper, and if I like what's going on, then great, I've done what I wanted to do. There's a little area here where the colors are not very nice. So what I'll do is I'll take some yellow and some of this magenta. This paint is nasty. I'm just going to go in there and add dots. Oh, so really it's, yeah, actually I'm liking that. The sky is the limit on what you can do to add interest. And if you do it here, you do it there. So I typically have some bubble wrap that I use. Don't know where it is, but bubble wrap. You can use bubble wrap, you can use stamps, you can use stencils, you can cut up paper, you can get wax paper, anything really to make marks. Oh, I like that. I'm not too much into linear, which that is, but it's all part of the game. Okay. I don't know how long we've been at it, another about 20 minutes or so. But I think I like it. And you notice because I gessoed my paper, it's not coming through the back of it. So I have quite a few journals that you can use, that I use thin paper, but I gesso them because I don't always want to use a big canvas. Sometimes I just want to play, and I don't want to. Oh, I'm liking that. I'm adding interest. I'm looking at this little area here. I'm thinking, I'm not liking it. It's the colors are not what I wanted, so I'll go in there and add more color. And you can literally get, oh, I'm liking that. This is what happens. You don't, okay, see what I'm saying? I'll pick some of that up, some of this up, and let's go like this. I'm not letting things dry, so what's happening is they're getting to be, they're getting muddy. So I'll go back to what I do know. Do some of this. Oh, I like that. I'm going to go in here and add some of this. Add some of this. Okay, so if I do that test again, with my window, I don't know if you can see it, but okay, I like it. So now, done, right? Nope. Now what? Now you can decide what you want to do with it. So, a couple of things. You can let it dry, and it's always best if you're not comfortable with mixing colors, because if you leave your papers wet, then the colors are wet, then they'll mix. So you can either let it dry or I'm impatient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my negative space around whatever it is that I want to draw. I think I'm going to do, flowers are always nice, and they're simple, but really you can do anything. Silhouette of a cat, you can do the silhouette of an animal, you can do a silhouette of a person. There's about a thousand things you can do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some plants. Only because it's